Kazakhstan is multi-ethnic, multicultural, and multilingual country. And there are about 25 different Turkic ethnicities living in Kazakhstan. And of course, their number is quite different. There are very big Turkic languages and groups as Uzbek, Uyghur, Meskhetian Turks, Azerbaijani people living in Kazakhstan. And at the same time, there are representatives of endangered Turkic languages live in Kazakhstan as well, as Shor, Krymchak, Karaim, according to the data of official data in Kazakhstan. So the majority of Turkic population currently living in Kazakhstan were separated from their main bulk of living area because of different historical events. And now speakers of many Turkic languages and their language varieties live in modern Kazakhstan. If we tell about the Turkic ethnicities, different Turkic ethnicities and their historical background, of course, the data goes back till the beginning of or the end of 19th, 18th centuries when people, Tatar people lived in a very long historical period with Kazakh because of the common borderline, Uzbek, Uyghur. Our project data also allowed us to group the historical time when people, different Turkic ethnicities came to Kazakhstan. In 37, for example, 1935-37, the time of creating collective farms in the former Soviet Union, then and the period of nationalization, then the wealthy peasants from Azerbaijan, Kumyk, Nogay were deported to Kazakhstan. Turkic ethnicities from the Caucasus, Karachay, Balkar, Meskhetian Turks were deported.
During our research, we have come across so many very interesting ethnic groups that really deserve very close observation and documentation. And for example, Professor Tazhibayeva told us about her neighbors who were Turks, and we knew that there are about 200,000 Turks living in Kazakhstan. It's a great number, but we thought that those are Turkish people who came from Turkey to Kazakhstan to work or to study. But it has turned out that those are Turkish groups in Kazakhstan who were deported from Georgia to Kazakhstan during the Second World War. And their history is really, really, dramatic because they had to leave their homes and they were sent to the steppe of Kazakhstan and had to survive there. And they told us about their family histories. In the project, we had many student participants from Frankfurt and from Astana, and they were crying when they heard those stories because they are so touching. It was such a terrible shock for the whole community. And this community has survived thanks to the help of the Kazakhstani people. And they have preserved their variety of Turkish. So it has turned out that it's not any variety which is spoken in Turkey, but a completely different variety which has not been documented earlier. Thus, in fact, Professor Tazhibayeva has discovered several new Turkic varieties.
One of the biggest group is Azeri people. There are about 46,000 Azeri live in Kazakhstan, in different areas of Kazakhstan. And then Tatar, about 205,000 people live in Kazakhstan. Then Turkish, so as we call Meskhetian Turks, they officially known as Meskhetian Turks, about 98,000 Turkic people live in Kazakhstan. Besides, there are about 1,800 Balkar, about 17,000 Bashkir, 223 Hakas, 7,301 Chuvash, about 500 Gagauz, 119 Saha people, Yakut, about 2,900 Karakalpak people, about 23,000 Kyrgyz people live in Kazakhstan. And you see that the Tuvan people, so 276 Nogai, 1,532 Krim Tatar, about 96 Shor people live in Kazakhstan. So, and all at all, 24 ethnicities of Turkic ethnicities, representatives of Turkic ethnicities live in Kazakhstan, in modern Kazakhstan.
Our international project, Interaction of Turkic Languages and Cultures, which was funded by the Volkswagen Foundation and was carried out at Frankfurt University, Berlin Free University, and the universities of Taraz and the Eurasian National University in Kazakhstan. And in the course of the project, we had interviewed representatives of Turkic peoples. And the results of those interviews can be viewed on the website of our project, turkivibli.com, and there you can find also the answers of our interviewers to different questions, and those answers were statistically proceeded and represented in diagrams and so on. And also, we asked their questions about their self-identification, their ethnic self-identification. And it appeared that the ethnic identification in the passport differed from their own ethnic identification. And there were very many different reasons for that. But quite a number of people also said, well, we have grown up in Kazakhstan and we feel more Kazakh than, the ethnicity that we belong to according to our birth. And they mostly speak Kazakh very well. They can use Kazakh in practically all spheres of communication, and quite often they use their native tongue only in the family. So we can say that they have integrated into the Kazakhstan social, political, educational life. So in all areas of in all spheres of public interaction in Kazakhstan.
We have interviewed different people, and during the interviews there were very interesting situation when our interviewer, a young Turkmen guy, who identified himself as Uzbek because he was born in Uzbekistan. He was fluent in Uzbek, and his friends are Uzbek, but and that is why he identified himself more Uzbek than Turkmen. And there are many such situations. Just recently, I was at the shop, and there was among the there was one young Russian guy who was looking for the price, and we said, showed that there is the Russian variant of the price, and he answered in a very good Kazakh, saying, "I understand Kazakh, and I am Kazakhstani Russian. I am fluent in Kazakh." And the situation is changing. Many Karashay, Balkar people who were deported to Kazakhstan married Kazakh. And of course, they consider themselves as Kazakh. That is why the situation, sociolinguistic situation in Kazakhstan is very interesting, very diverse, and is a very interesting topic for scientific research. Not only Turkic ethnicities, but also there are many Chechen people living in Kazakhstan who were also deported to Kazakhstan in the 40s and stayed to live in Kazakhstan. Then you know that in 60s there was a decree rehabilitating all deportees, and so many people from who were deported to Kazakhstan returned to their historical countries, to their historical place of living. But the exiled Turkic ethnicities and the other ethnicities stayed in Kazakhstan under special restrictions, and they could return only in 1961. But Krim Tatar were not allowed to return to the Crimea from till the beginning of mid 80s. And the only people who were not mentioned in the list of rehabilitated ethnicities and who got permission to return to their historical regions of settlement, who are not allowed to return to their historical regions of settlement, were Turkic ethnicities, Turkish, as Irina Anatolievna have mentioned, representing different varieties of Turkish living in Kazakhstan.
This is a very interesting question because there are many opinions that Turkic languages are so close to each other that some scholars call them dialects, not languages. But in fact, of course, those are languages which has been proven by linguistic research, but they are related to each other. They are genetically related, so that means that they come from the same proto-language. And in the course of their historic development, they have acquired individual features on the one hand, through the internal impetus of the development of the linguistic system, or because of the contacts with non-Turkic languages, but also through contacts with other Turkic languages, with shared innovations. On the one hand, so thus they show now a great diversity, but at the same time they show also a great unity. So these are two controversial concepts that we use when we describe the Turkic language family: diversity and unity. For example, the Ahıska Turks, the 100 speakers of Ahıska Turkish, and still the Ahıska Turkish can be endangered because the younger generation switches to standard Turkish, Turkish of the Republic of Turkey, and they go to Turkey for vacation, or they work in Turkey, or they study in Turkey. They listen to the Turkish radio. They they watch different Turkish films. So they switch to standard Turkish, and so we don't know what happens to Ahıska Turkish. So it should be studied now, as long as the older generation is there. But there are also, of course, more typical reasons for an endangerment of a language. For example, the Shors. This is a small numbered language. There are only 16,000 Shors all in all. So in the whole world. So there are only several speakers of Shor in Kazakhstan, and many of them do not speak Shor, actually. They have switched to some other language. But there are also ethnicities which are also small numbered and can lose their language in a very short period of time. Even representatives of bigger ethnicities that have some administrative entity outside Kazakhstan, for example, like the Nogais or the Karachay or the Balkars, they are more or less well situated languages. But in Kazakhstan, the people might lose those languages still. And of course, we should also mention about the languages of the Crimean Tatars and also Karaim, especially the Karaim language. Especially the Karaim language is very much endangered because there are only a few dozens of people in the whole world who speak Karaim. And there are a few families, a few Karaim families who live in Kazakhstan. So, of course, there are endangered languages in Kazakhstan, and it's possible probably to document those languages in Kazakhstan or only in Kazakhstan. So the question is, what is the place of the native language for all those ethnicities. And of course, there is also a danger that they will forget their heritage language, their native language, their heritage language, and get completely assimilated. The politics in Kazakhstan, the politicians and the state of Kazakhstan is aware of this situation. And there is an assembly of Kazakh peoples, of the Kazakh people, which is composed of representatives of different ethnic groups of Kazakhstan, and whose main task is to represent those ethnicities, their needs, the necessity for them to preserve also their native language. And there are very different ways to do that. Just for example, there are newspapers. The Meskhetian Turks, which is the official designation of those ethnic groups, which are also very diverse, and they call themselves Ahiskaba, which is quite a quite different name. It comes from the name of one of the bigger area in Georgia from which the people were deported. So the Ahiskaba, they have their own newspaper. They have different organizations of Ahizka Turks. There are also, for example, special organizations for women, for Ahizka women. I was greatly impressed by the great work that they are doing. We were guests of such association of Ahizka women when we did our research in Kazakhstan, and our students and me myself were very much touched how heartily we were accepted and how friendly and with great hospitality we were received.
Kazakhstani government gives all possibilities for diasporas to strengthen the position of the language and cultures. And this is, as has been mentioned, the Assembly of People of Kazakhstan, and the cultural centers actually function in big and small cities, in villages, even in villages. People study their native language, their culture, and ethnocultural centers are free. They function for free, but the salary for their teachers who teach the native language and conduct different activities is paid from the budget of the Ministry of Education of Kazakhstan. For example, in Almaty, there is an ethnocultural center of Crimean Tatar who started to learn their language from the ABCs. They even couldn't greet each other in the native Tatar language, and elders and youngsters participate and study together. They got information from the Crimea and other sources. Interesting, the same centers function not only with Turkic, connected with Turkic ethnicities, but with Chechen and Dungan and Belarus, Ukrainian, Russian center, and different ethnicities. And of course, representatives take care of their native language and the Kazakh language. And besides, there are schools, secondary schools in Kazakhstan, Uzbek school, Dungan School in Taraz, then Uyghur schools. And the education system of secondary education function for multicultural, for bigger ethnicities as Uyghur, Uzbek, even Meskhetian Turk was taught at one of secondary schools in Taraz and in Almaty, but later they switched to the modern Turkish, and the parents of the children were against, because they started to forget their native Turkish variety. But Turkish was taught on the higher at universities of Kazakhstan, and of course the future teachers of Uzbek and Uyghur are taught at Abay National Pedagogical University in Almaty. There's special grants for the representatives of these nationalities to study the language in universities. So that is why. So there are many interesting social linguistic processes just during the last 30 years. And of course, it deserves studying from new perspectives, from new levels, and interesting social linguistic situation.